Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pimps and simps, welcome back to the Mac Live, the #1 podcast here in the world, back to episode 136. And if you're new to the channel, we go over absolutely everything to do with growing your brand online, monetizing that brand, marketing for Onlyfans, and Onlyfans management for creators, as well as we sprinkle in a few little other bits here and there. Now, also, if you're new to the channel, the way in which we do these is in podcast-style format, so I essentially blurt out some of the updates for the day. Me and you get a little bit of bonding time, and then after that, we get into the juice. Now, today's video is going to be focused around essentially how to make money on OnlyFans, both for a creator and for a manager. What are some key fundamental business principles you can apply, as well as some marketing channels you should be working on to make the most money with OnlyFans. Now, we're going to get towards that at the end of the video, so make sure you hit subscribe. And we have a few little updates to get into today before we talk about it. Now, yesterday we were talking about the 4 pillars of leverage, and I am going to recap a little bit of that today because it's very, very important that you've got that hammered down, especially when it comes to making money. And more so than money today, I want to talk about leveraging life, achieving all your goals by using these 4 pillars, and one in particular for everything else. But a little update. So I had to go back to the doctors today because I've had this staph infection. They took like a culture swab last time. So I went back and it's confirmed that it is staph, what I said originally while I was in Indonesia, which I told the doctor. And this is what I mean about not trusting certain doctors. You know, I picked it up, come back, and then I told the doctor while I was there, I was like, it's staph infection. She's like, it's not. You got to go to a dermatologist. I was like, it's a fucking staph infection. I understand the environment. I picked it up the next day after jiu-jitsu. Muay Thai, and she's like, oh, it's not. Sent my friend back because we've gone twice now, and she's like, no, it's not staph. Anyway, come back here. She's like, it's staph. Took the culture swab, put me on antibiotics. Went back today, and she's like, it is staph infection. She's like, now you need to take a whole nother course of antibiotics just to make sure that we can get rid of it. So fucking annoying. Because it would have been cleared so much quicker if the original doctor had to listen. And that's what I'm talking about like, you know, you innately know, that's the word I've been searching for months. You innately know things about your body and about yourself, and one person's opinion isn't always correct. And so like you should apply this to everything. Think about like what other opinions are holding you back in life. The 9-to-5 job, that anything online is a scam, all of this shit, okay? You know, these are usually blockages holding you back from making serious progress or potentially life-saving. So that being said, I've been dropping these reaction videos, and I didn't realize, because I don't watch my videos, I push out so much content. I thought that the sound was perfect, and I listened to a bit of the first reaction video when I had the sound all the way up and I had the Yeti on multi-directional. I've switched it to one. I think omni means all. I had it on omnidirectional. I switched it to single directional. But what's happened is I've realized that the Mac's audio isn't being recorded. So someone commented, and I appreciate your comment, saying, I can barely hear, I can't hear the other video on the Mac. And I was like, is this a problem that Mac hasn't adjusted? Like Mac hasn't fixed? Because this should be in QuickTime. It should just be a setting. I had to look around, then I've had to look online. And what I realized is it doesn't record the internal audio. So the last few videos, unless you turn it all the way up, you're barely able to hear what's going on screen, which has definitely killed the user experience, which is definitely what's equated to the smaller amount of views as well. So I apologize. And like, this is the thing about continuing to do something for a long time. People would say, oh, you've done your podcast and this for a long time now, you've been on YouTube for a long time. It's like, yeah, and look at the skills that I'm still needing to learn and still needing to develop. And this is how far I am in. And I hammer into all of you about persisting with things for a long time to become an expert. There's just so many micro skills that you're missing. So now that I've found that out today, I've found the workaround for it is you download a plugin that essentially everyone uses called Black Hole. And what it lets you do is it's essentially a driver that lets you capture the Mac's internal audio whilst at the same time letting your external mic or the Yeti or the Mac speakers, whichever you want to use, it lets that capture the audio, and then it puts it all together nicely. Whilst researching that as well, I also found with QuickTime that if you, rather than just press X on your videos, because that's how I record them with QuickTime, if you just press X and it normally saves it, but instead, if you go ahead and you press Save As, and you select your output as 4K, you can still save it as 4K, it actually has an inbuilt compressor. And so what it does is it compresses the file, meaning I'll be able to upload videos so much quicker. I can actually get out a lot more reaction videos each day now, rather than just that single reaction video. And I learned this with InShot as well. If you record in like I think cinema mode, which is essentially what I'm using now, you can see the closer I come, the background's that little bit blurred out. The cinema mode on the iPhone 13 Pro. If you're using that and you're trying to then put the video on InShot and you're like, fuck, this is taking forever. I figured out a trick. So essentially, because InShot will compress the file, which is great for compressing files. What you do is you go to InShot immediately after recording, hit upload, okay? And then once it hits 1%, hit cancel and then just get out of the app. So don't actually close the app completely, but just get out of the app and go about your day. And what it'll do is it will continue to work on basically uploading it or compressing it without you actually doing anything. And then you can continue to use your phone rather than sitting there waiting for it to go 1 to 100, which would take hours. And I just learned this a while ago and I've just forgotten to mention to everyone. So if you use cinema mode and you want to edit on InShot, that is a very quick way to do it. So you do that and then I come back. So say with this video, I'll record, I'll put it on InShot, I'll let it hit 1%, I'll press cancel. And then I've still got my phone. I can use it for the next hour or so. And it normally takes around 45 minutes. And then in 45 minutes, I'll hit upload again. And when I hit upload, it'll just go straight to 100. So that's a cool little loophole trick that I've learned there as well. And this is what I talk about, becoming an expert is like just learning so many skills to the point where they're not even skills to you anymore. Like to me, knowing that about InShot is now just natural. It's just part of the daily thing when I upload videos. But to someone who wants to start on YouTube, they have to figure out, how do I start a channel? How many people do I need to get monetized? What are keywords? What's SEO? What should I talk about? How do I set up my camera? Where should I have the lighting structure? Should I be facing the window or have it in the background? Should I have background lighting? What should I talk about? How do I make it more structured? How do I not get off tangent? How do I edit? How do I do this? How come the mic sounds shit? How come this looks shit? How come it's taking forever to upload? So it's just like so many skills that you learn, and then eventually it just becomes natural to the point where it's like you don't even realize that you're an expert, and that's when you're an expert. Autonomy, as you would learn in like skill development with a muscle. You ask someone who's like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, like, fuck, how'd you do that and destroy me? And they're like, I don't know, it's just moves upon moves ahead, and they've just drilled it to the point where it's autonomous. And I think, my one of my jiu-jitsu coaches from the Blue Mountains, he has a very cool concept. I'll try and remember it correctly now. I haven't written it down, so it's going to be harder to remember it on the spot. But it's essentially the stages of learning that he says that you go through are unconsciously unaware is the start. So you don't know what's happening, okay? Unconsciously incompetent is the first one. You're unaware of what's happening. So say, for example, you've never wrestled and you and me try and wrestle and I just whip you up into an armbar. You don't know what's happened, okay? You just know you've ended up in an armbar. And you're like, fuck, how'd I end up there? And not only did you not know how you ended up there, you're incompetent to deal with it. You can't deal with the threat. So I've put you in it and you weren't capable enough to deal with it, okay? Equals arm broken, equals dead. Now, the next stage is consciously incompetent. So you understand what I'm doing, and that takes a while. And maybe I show you the mechanics of an armbar and different ways to set it up, and then I attack an armbar and you understand what I'm doing, but because I'm skill levels ahead of you and I can implement strength in certain ways and I've drilled it a million times, you know what's happening, but you're just not competent enough to deal with it. Maybe you start to defend and then I add a variation where I start to attack a wrist lock and you go, oh fuck, and then I get an armbar. So you're unaware of dealing with it. And then after that, you become consciously competent, okay? So this is stage 3, consciously competent. And you would think that's all the stages, consciously competent. Now you know what I'm doing, it's coming, and you're capable enough to deal with it. You're like, fuck, he's going for an armbar, I'm gonna start to defend, I can't get the armbar on you. You've progressed from not even knowing what was taking place, and this is the same in every skill, same in business, same in everything. You've progressed from not knowing what's happening and not being able to be skillful enough to deal with it, to knowing what's happening, not being skillful enough to deal with it. Now you know what's happening and you're skillful enough to deal with it. And you're like, but isn't that the best? No. Actually, what happens is then you revert almost, but you go to a stage where you're unconsciously competent. And this is autonomy. This is a stage where, you don't even realize that I'm going for an armbar because you don't need to bring it to your conscious mind. You've been in that position that many times. You start to feel me rotating my hips. Maybe I'm coming off an S-mount or something. You start to feel me grabbing your arm and you just unconsciously deal with it. You're competent enough to deal with it. And now it's an unconscious movement while you're focusing on maybe working a reversal or something else. And this is the importance of building skills. You need it to the point where you become unconsciously competent. And you'll notice that when people ask me, oh bro, so how do you record your videos? And I'm showing them this, and they go, oh, but what was that you just did? And I'm like, what do you mean? What was what? And they're like, well, what's that app? And I'm like, oh, that's InShot. Oh, yeah, InShot. And I'm like, fuck, you've become unconscious about it to the point where it's just so standardized that you use it. You're not like, okay, now we need to use InShot to do this. You get to the point where it's just autonomous. And autonomy in anything brings the highest results. Why did I mention this whole story? Is because of the fact that if you want to make money in business, okay, imagine you trying to compete and you're new in the area and you're trying to figure out things. And for me, I can just set up, do all this, and it's just coming naturally. And I'm processing and thinking about other things while doing all this. It's very, very hard to compete. So the only way that you get there is through repetition. You got to put in the work. Okay, next as well, you can see I got the Andrew Tate in the background. I'm 6 minutes in. I wasn't planning this to be the reaction video, but one popped up and it said Andrew Tate's last video. So I clicked it and I've gone through. I don't even know how I'd seen it because I was going to say I use a newsfeed eradicator, so I don't see videos. But I was watching a part of my video for looking at. Someone said there's no audio, so I was looking through and then that popped up as a suggested. So anyway, I clicked it. That's going to be today's reaction video. I watched a few minutes and I'm going to skip the start because it's not really anything to do with being banned. But it's the topic on my agenda today as well is I'll be doing a reaction video to this because whether you like Andrew Tate or not, he's correct about the media controlling the narrative. You look, there's a lot of pro fucking feminist groups, a lot of pro groups for all different agendas, and they're allowed to be completely extreme on all of these platforms. But anything that even starts to go against the agenda, okay, and you can tell what the agenda is simply by what's allowed and what's not, okay? If there's one strong opinion one way, but the other way has a little bit and it's taken down, you can tell what the agenda is. As soon as, that sort of narrative starts to get taken down, we're living in a very scary world because it's almost like Stalin controlling the information. In that period of time, he even went through and ordered that libraries were burnt, certain information, certain books were burnt, certain things were eradicated simply because when people aren't even, like I just explained, this whole concept about being, consciously aware or unconsciously incompetent. If I can take it to the point where you don't even know what's happening, like in jiu-jitsu to begin with, how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to deal with what I'm doing to you? And if I'm trying to manipulate you into working, a slave life, to be filled with hatred, to be constantly watching the media, to be scared of what's going on, whatever my narrative is that I want to control, the best way to do that is to remove all the information, and just look at it like jiu-jitsu. Imagine I want to break your arm. The easiest way for me to do that would be to never let you know what an armbar is, okay? Because you never know how to defend it. You're not even aware of what I'm doing. And so if me and you get in a scuffle and I grab your arm, okay, it's very, very easy for me to exert my influence. And it's the exact same thing with the media at the moment. So it's like, if they can control what they want you to, or what you're allowed to see and not let you see the rest, okay, it means that they obviously have an agenda or something to gain by pushing that onto you. So just have a think about that. Obviously, me even talking about this puts all my socials at risk, but I don't feel I'm nowhere near a big enough platform yet for it to even matter. So I still feel I've got quite a lot of time before that happens. And, thanks to the Andrew Tate videos, I'm starting to put backups myself in place. With the Hive community that I'm building, eventually it'll be big enough to the point where I can have Hive members essentially push out my message for me, and we can do it on a much larger scale anyway. So that being said, I think the only other thing before we talk about leverage and then we get into OnlyFans is, there's actually an extra one, is controversy. Don't forget to be making stuff controversial. Even myself, in the last couple of days, I look and I'm like, I haven't put out too much controversial stuff. Controversy is what's driving the most amount of views. So, like I said, once learned, thrice reminded. Like my YouTube mentor was saying about controversy, making things making them as controversial as possible. You want to go ahead and make them controversial. For Hive members as well, I've sent a message off to my lawyer, so I'm waiting on a text back because I know there's certain certain laws around essentially giving away things. But for Hive members, I'm still deciding, and obviously I've got to wait for the legal stuff to come back, but I'm still deciding I want to be able to give back to the Hive in forms of incentives for different things, and I'm trying to come up with those measurements. So whether it's the people who are most active in the community, whether it's the people who are voted the most helpful by other members, whether it's the people who get the most results each month, who had the most progress, whatever it is, I'm going to be giving away things. And again, like I said, I've got to wait to find out what that is, but it might be cash, designer shit, laptops, it could be anything. So that's on the card for Hive members as well. Just giving back to members within the Hive. So let me know if you have any suggestions about it. Obviously, like I said, I've got to wait and see the legals around it. But if you're in the Hive, feel free to leave any suggestions of both the metrics and the reward. Who do you think deserves to be rewarded? And then on top of that, what should the rewards be? So let me know. Okay, the last topic is about leverage before we get into the OnlyFans stuff. And yesterday I talked about the 4 pillars of leverage, and today I really want to hammer down just one, but I want to remind you the 4 pillars of leverage so that we can reinforce it in your head. So, do you remember the 4 pillars? Okay, hopefully you remember and you listened and you paid attention yesterday. And if you want to take it even further, you can put them in the order, okay, that I showed you. Can you remember the order in which I showed you? I'm not going to put them in order, but I'm going to do them all for you now. So one of the biggest ones is media, the ability to leverage media, okay? Instead of just one-on-one. I've recorded this video once, and if you watch it now and someone else watches it even 10 years from now, I've gained leverage, okay? It's not just one-on-one. Fucking so itchy, look at that. Look at these fucking little things, little staff. So our first one is media. The second that we have is software, remember, okay? We can leverage software to do stuff for us. The third is labor, okay? So we can leverage other people's time, okay? And the fourth one is capital. And what we're going to talk about today is how to succeed faster in life by leveraging capital, because I only briefly mentioned capital yesterday, but capital will accelerate you in all forms of other areas of life. And it's like, especially say you want to learn a skill, it's like, if you wanted to learn to become the best football player, would you rather just play at your local soccer club and put in 3 to 4 years? Sure, you can make a lot of progress, but if you already had millions of dollars and you could pay to go and train with whoever, Juventus, Milan, I don't know, soccer teams don't matter to me. Football teams don't matter to me. You go train with a professional team, you go play with Ronaldo, you go play with all these stars because you can afford it and you have capital. Think of how much leverage you can exert. Your input is capital, okay? And the output that you're getting is massive in terms of how quick you can learn a skill. Exact same thing with accomplishing your dreams. When you write down your goals, okay, from now on, I've almost invented this new method of goal achievement. So I haven't heard anyone else talk about this, and it's something that I think that I want to write a whole book about eventually. I want to put in a lot of time into studying it correctly, doing a bit of research before I create a book on this. But I want it to be like using the 4 pillars of leverage, and it won't be titled this, but using the 4 pillars of leverage to unlock maximum potential. The 4 pillars to maximum potential, or something like this. And essentially, the way in which I've thought about this heavily since last night is write down your goals the way you would normally write down your goals. But now, I want you to write down the 4 pillars of leverage. You can have it beside them, or you can have it in like a XY graph. And I want you to sit there and think, how could I use these 4 different leverages, okay, to bring my goals quicker? And this is a really, really cool thing. Like, this is very, very tangible. And when you do this, like, you're going to realize, holy fuck, you actually have a lot more power over your goals than you thought. So for me, I'll give you my example. Like, what am I working on? Currently, I want all of my accounts verified on all platforms. And it's like, how can I influence capital over that? You know, how can I leverage capital? How can I leverage people for that, or labor of other people for that? How can I leverage software to get me verified? Okay, and so what you're starting to do is just, and how can I leverage media, of course, but you're starting to think, which one of these can I leverage the best to bring me that result, rather than just winging it? So I want to get verified on everything. Well, if I could leverage other people that know what they're doing, and then having capital, I can leverage capital to speed up that process. It's going to make it a lot easier to achieve that goal. I want to scale the Hive to the point where it's doing $225,000 a month profit, not factoring in pre-tax profit, essentially, and pre-processor fees. But I want it to the point where it's doing $225,000 a month. So it's like, what are the 4 things that I can leverage to get there? I can leverage labor of other people. I can get other people to be posting content. Okay? And so what incentives can I offer them where it's a mutual win? How can I leverage software to help get me there? How can I leverage media better to help get me there? How can I leverage capital that I already have better to help get me there? Okay? Same thing. I wanted 100,000 followers on YouTube. How can I leverage media to get me there? How can I leverage software to get me there? How can I leverage capital to get me there? Okay. And then there's all certain ones, but I want you to write down your goals and then put the 4 pillars there and then start to write, how could I leverage these 4 big things, okay, to achieve my goals quicker? And I'm going to go real in depth over this over the next couple months, and more that I think about it, the more that I experiment with it. That being said, let's get into the Onlyfans content. Make sure you smash subscribe. Today's a little bit more calmer compared to the normal potty. Now, the first thing that I want you to do is understand, when you're trying to make money on OnlyFans, you need to think of yourself as an experimenter. Okay, remember that strategies will change over time. Platforms will change, certain things will happen, and if you rely on one strategy rather than developing a character trait, eventually it will burn out, and eventually, you know, you'll panic because of it. Because you'll acquire all this wealth, or you'll acquire what you think is working, and then when it stops and it's taken away from you, that could potentially be the thing that forces you to quit. So the first thing that I want you to adapt is a character trait where I want you to feel like you're an experimenter, okay? This is the character trait that you need. You're not just searching for methods that already work. Even whilst that's happening, you're constantly experimenting with new things, trying to get new things to work. And if that's the mindset you take, eventually you'll build it to the point where you have 6 or 7 different things that are working, and that provides a bit of diversification. You'll feel a lot safer. The next thing is the long-term mentality. You need to develop that you're going to be in this game for a long period of time, or there's no point doing it. Just like YouTube, you know, yesterday I was looking through Lewis Holmes videos, and I was researching, I was seeing like more and more of these dudes' interviews popping up, and more with, you know, very powerful people. And I was thinking, well, who is this guy? Like, where does his journey start? And so I started scrolling back through his YouTube videos. I went to his channel, scrolling back. And at the moment, he essentially interviews, you know, very powerful people, very well-known doctors, very influential, famous people, billionaires. He essentially interviews all these people. But if you look, and you know, obviously not too many people have gone back, because you can tell by the view count, I scrolled all the way back. And so I went back to the start of his channel, and the first thing that I noticed, right, 12 years he's been producing content. Now, he's got 2.2 million followers. 12 years. So what I thought, well, what's he doing different to me that I'm not? Okay, yeah, sure, he's interviewing people and he has a different niche and he's maximizing other people's audiences, which isn't something that I want to do just yet. But what else has he done? Well, he's been on the platform 12 years. And I was like, damn, he's got a way more professional setup, way better all this, way better that. But he's also got 12 years experience. And this is where it would be valuable, you know, obviously for me to reach out to someone like him, it's going to be very, very hard. He's a lot further above than me. But if I could say to him, look, bro, you give me 1 hour, I'll give you 50 grand, and you just shortcut me the process of what you've done to get to 2 million followers on YouTube. Like, what was the biggest things that you noticed? Just it's a little list. I'll pay you 50 G's, okay? That will massively impact the amount of time it's going to save me to reach my goal of getting 100 to 100k YouTube subs. And on top of that, we're utilizing one of the pillars of leverage. We're utilizing capital again. So I looked at his channel anyway. And like I said, the main thing that he's got on me is 12 years. So I'm thinking, what can I leverage? Well, the only possible thing that I could leverage that may be able to help me to shortcut that process is, please tell me you're paying attention today. It's capital. Okay, so you have to remember, in the OnlyFans business as well, we can leverage capital. Okay, so whilst you're making money, you want to be leveraging capital, and I talked about this yesterday, and leveraging people, okay, or labor to handle these autonomous jobs. At the start, you want to do them yourself because it's going to allow you to understand the process fully. Because if you don't even understand, how content is sold from the vault to people or certain things, when your team asks you, okay, you're not even going to understand the basics of what you're talking about. You have to do jobs yourself first, and then you can start to delegate them out. Or you have to have some basis of knowledge there. Okay, so you want to develop this long-term mentality, which is the thing that I'm drilling into. Okay, if you're going to be in this game, you want to be in for a long, long time. So you look at it and you're like, okay, maybe I may not make as much money as I want the first year, but if I stick with it for 12 years, how realistic do you think it is that you're going to make it? Pretty fucking realistic, because most people won't do anything for 12 years. Most people will not stick with anything for 12 years. And it's funny, I look at people who've dedicated their lives 40 years to working for something like Woolworths, and it's like, fuck, you don't understand. You threw away your most valuable asset, time, when you had like the most valuable character trait, which is dedication. You played it safe and took no risk, but you're dedicated. That's 40 years in one place. Imagine if you dedicated 40 years to business, suffered the first 5 or 6 or 7, and then it went good after there, which it will. It's like, fuck, you'd be a multi-millionaire. You wouldn't just be scraping by working at Woolies. So that's the thing you want to adapt. If you're going to do this, make sure you're going to stick with it for the long haul, or there's no point doing it. Long-term mentality. Now, how to make money. Let me give you the actual fucking things that you've come here searching for. Let me give you the 3 platforms that you need to focus on. Again, look at that. Thumbs holding back the pinky. Maybe I should practice. Does your thumb hold your pinky when you do 3? I think everyone's does. I think it's a normal thing. So, these are the 3 platforms that you need to focus on. The 2 T's and the Y. Titties. You need to focus on TikTok as your paid form of media. Now, I talked about this in a previous video, okay? TikTok ads. I've talked about this on the channel. As you start to get capital in, you should be investing $100. If you're only making $100 a week, use it all for TikTok ads, because this is what's going to grow you to the multiple 6 to 7 figure stage in year 2. You need to focus on long-term exposure. It's very, very important. Okay, so take in the $100 a week and put it into TikTok ads. Now, buy a TikTok ads account. You don't want to use your personal account. You want to use TikTok ads, okay, an ads account, which you can buy from Fiverr for like 20 or 30 bucks, okay? And it doesn't matter if it gets banned, because you can just keep creating new ones and rerunning ads. So the first thing that you want to be using is TikTok ads, and that's where you can leverage capital. The second form of marketing that you need to use, okay, and you can do this the very cheap way, 100% free way, or you can add a little bit to it by getting gold, okay? You want to be using Tinder, okay? So Tinder, simply have your girl's account there and you're just swiping all day. Bing, 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 message them. Hey, add me on Snapchat, babe. They add you on Snapchat, okay? Now you've got them on 2 lists. Remember, data, we're building data lists, okay? They're chatting to you there. Hey, message me on, send them a link tree to get them to OnlyFans. Then just focus on a percentage game. Sure, only 2% might convert. Great, that's a 2% conversion rate to OnlyFans. Tinder all the way through to OnlyFans. Fantastic. How can you increase the amount? That's all you got to work on. How can I increase the amount of traffic if 2% are converting? Okay, and if you're saying, yeah, but it's not really making me that much. 2% conversion is pretty fucking good. So it's like, okay, maybe you're missing something else. You're not charging enough on the back end. You need to be charging a premium. And I always talk about charging a premium. Look through the reviews, like in yesterday. I'll even chuck one up because it's already on my phone. And we're at 30 minutes or 29:30, which is nice. Bing! A comment from Violet, and she watched one of my videos where I was hammering in the importance of pricing, telling people, please, okay, it's a base rate fallacy about pricing cheap. Price a premium. Even if I'm wrong, you'll get to see that. But She took my advice. She increased her sub price. She should increase her message price as well. Increased her sub price, and she's already making more money. Okay, very, very simple. It's the easiest thing that you have influence over, and it's just a mental blockade telling you that you can't charge more. You need to charge more. Okay, the next thing, and that's why I'm putting the price of the Hive up too. The Hive is going up again, and I've talked about this in the last few videos. I'm putting the price up again, and like I said, this will just continue. It will continue to go up and up and up and up and up over time. So now, the third one, and this is your main long form one. This is the one that's going to provide you big money. So Alex Hamosi was saying recently, you know, the difference between direct marketing and branding, which is essentially what YouTube is direct marketing, which is your Tinder, which is your TikTok, which is constantly here, there. TikTok starts to move more towards being long-term, okay? That's direct marketing. That will make you a direct ROI. That's fast money. But to make big money, okay, it's essentially about building a brand. You need that long-term vision. So ladies, if you're on OnlyFans, okay, you need to be developing this personal brand on... Is this already here? No. It says to authorize. I ordered some more Versace robes, and they've been shipped from Italy, but I only ordered them last night, so they shouldn't be fucking here already. But I'm pretty sure it just said if I want to authorize it. Anyway, with the YouTube, okay, even if you're worried about, yeah, but in the future I might not want to be the OnlyFans girl, I might want to be da-da-da-da-da, that's fine. Build up your personal brand and just be comfortable that that was a section of your life. And if you're not comfortable with that, you shouldn't be on OnlyFans anyway. But people say to me like this all the time, like, yeah, but you're the fucking internet pimp now and this and that, but what if in like 15 years you want to change? That's fine. That's still going to be a portion of my life that I'm very happy about, and a portion that has built like a substantial amount of my personal branding. And then if I decide that later on that's something that I want to change, or an aspect that wants to be changed later on, you've still built a personal brand around you, which isn't going anywhere. And that's the most powerful thing you can do. And this is the last example that I want to give, bring you back to that Lewis Holmes dude. Go watch his first videos. You know, they were on sports, him doing reactions to sports, and him talking about business in sports, and then him talking about like all these like content things, and then it built to now where he just interviews superstars. So it's like, look at the difference over time. That being said, a majority of his base following would have been built there. So focus on those three things that I talked about. We've got Tinder, we've got TikTok, and we got YouTube. And then also remember the mindset. You need two things. You need the long-term player mindset, and you need to be an experimenter. That's it for the day. I'm going to get into the Andrew Tate reaction videos. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you want to make serious money with OnlyFans, join the Hive. The link's down below in the bio. It's always there. You can always fucking click that link, okay? And it's going to change your life. The amount of people that are in the Hive have come on board from nothing and are starting to pump 10K months. Like, even to go from nothing to a 10K month, I know is probably the biggest life changer. More so than any... I would say... I remember making nothing, and more than going from 6 to 7 figures... Your life doesn't really change too much, but to go from nothing to 6 figures, and for it to be Wi-Fi bread, okay? Even to be on 6 figures working your job and to switch that to 6 figures online, that's the biggest life change. You've got back all your freedom. So that's it for the day. Hit subscribe, join the Hive. See you all tomorrow.